DC's officially in a new era starting with Superman, and with the release of the newest movie, I figured it would be the perfect time to stop and rank all 8 Superman movies, not including Batman v Superman because that's technically a team-up movie, from the worst to the best. Let's get started. As we get into this video, be sure to let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. How would you rank the Superman franchise, all of the movies, all the iterations that we've seen? Throw in some animated movies if you want to. I personally am not. I'm strictly going for the Reeve era, the Superman Returns movie with Brandon Routh, Man of Steel with Henry Cavill, and of course the newest film with David Cornsweet. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And without further ado, let's get started. In last place, the movie that I genuinely think is so bad that I gave it a half a star rating on Letterboxd, which is basically equal to like an F in my eyes. Superman 3. Now yes, it might surprise you that I have Superman 3 lower than Superman 4, which might be a hot take, but I don't care. I hated this movie. I hated everything about it. The first few minutes, you realize how terrible the humor is. It is childish and it does not work at all. Superman 3 is mostly a bore. There's no real enjoyment to be had, for me at least. I just found it to be a dreadful watch. Specifically, I just despise what they did with Superman. He lost everything that made him Superman, this character that we know and love up until that point with the 2 previous Christopher Reeve movies. The Bizarro, even though it's not really a Bizarro storyline, that doesn't work for me because, like I said, Clark loses everything that made him a fan favorite character and made him just a likable person. He just feels like all of his genuine qualities have been stripped from him, and on top of that, Christopher Reeve just is out of it. You don't really get the sense that he's actually interested in delivering a good performance, I feel. I kept checking to see how much longer was left, and every time I looked, there was always an extreme amount of time, and I was groaning. An egregiously overlong movie. There's no reason for it to be as long as it is. Something I never could really fully wrap my head around is the fact of why is Richard Pryor the villain in this movie? I understand the backstory and how he wanted to be in a Superman movie. They made a story around him. Terrible idea. I just don't understand why Richard Pryor is involved in an embezzlement scheme. That's really what the best thing they could come up with. That's our villain for a Superman movie? Like, really? But you know who's the real villain of the movie? The script. It is so misguided and uninteresting, painfully frustrating, and it's just like, what are we doing? Why does one of the villainous characters turn into a cyborg at the end? What? Also, one of the biggest things that's missing from this movie is the relationship between Lois and Clark. It is so sorely missed. And the gag with the Leaning Tower pizza is so bad. Oh my god, I hated this movie. Just a little bit better, but not that much of a wide margin between the two. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Superman 4 has, once again, another really painfully uninteresting story that just tests your patience. Having Gene Hackman back, he's fun to watch. That's nice. You know, this movie is dumb and silly, and I think it acknowledges that. It doesn't play it too seriously, which was nice. It's thankfully the shortest of, I'm pretty sure, all the movies on this list, and so at least it's not a grueling, overly long watch. One of the earlier scenes in the movie, Clark just decides to tell Lois that he's Superman again, then goes flying with her, then reverses it again, and goes back on his decision. Why was that needed? Why did they have that? Dialogue is cringy, terrible use of green screen throughout, and John Cryer in this movie is horrendous. It doesn't help that the lines he's delivering suck, but he has laughably bad line delivery. The fight sequences overall are so poorly done, and there's nothing particularly intense in the movie, so that's another thing really holding it back. And the new love interest gets captured and then taken into space and somehow can breathe. Is she an alien? What's going on? The script is so ridiculously stupid. There's no way around that, and I understand why people hate this one even more than Superman 3, but I honestly think that there was just a little bit of a refreshing aspect to it, with it just being so bad that it's good sometimes, but really not that much. It's not a movie I want to revisit. At number 6, I have Superman Returns, which really was a disappointment for me. I have been looking forward to watching this movie for many years. First and foremost, the biggest thing and the biggest problem that I had is that I struggled to see Brandon Routh as Superman. He lacks presence on screen, plain and simple. He doesn't fit the stoic and confident and funny and charming and lighthearted whimsiness of the character. If anything, he's a charisma vacuum. He really doesn't give me much. And that's not like I hate Brandon Routh. I really had a good time with Legends of Tomorrow. He was one of the bigger parts of that. I watched that show many years ago. I remember really liking him there, but I understand why, unfortunately, he never really became a big star after this movie. But early on, I was just getting the vibe that this is not really working for me as a movie. I felt that it was dull and lifeless. There was nothing really vibrant about it, and that's supposed to be something so key to Superman, and we'll talk about that much later. On the flip side of Brandon Routh, though, you have Kate Bosworth and Kevin Spacey, who are equally as fine in their role. Like, I didn't hate their portrayals. And the score is great, I will admit that. But the color palette is so ugly. The visual effects do not look great. Everything looks so rubbery, and it really stands out, especially some of the flying sequences. Oh my god. And I really just felt the length of the movie. It is nearly 2.5 hours and too long. One of the things that really disappointed me about it is the fact they introduced the idea of Superman having a son. That's interesting. We haven't seen that in live action format, even up until this point today. It doesn't even really serve a purpose in the story. It's an interesting idea, just scrapped pretty much. I felt nothing during the final epic moments of the movie, which is really bad. And the chemistry between Clark and Lois, it's not there. Bosworth and Routh, they don't click. It's entirely watchable, I suppose, but there is an extreme lack of emotional depth throughout, really. The writing is just subpar. And I was excited to watch this movie because I was like, oh, it's the outlier Superman movie. It's one that never really had anything jumping off of it, and it never got a sequel, whatever. I know why now. Let's just say that. At number 5, I have the Donner cut. I, yes, do think that the original cut is a more favorable version of the movie for me. But let's talk about the Donner cut. It moves really quickly. It's, in a lot of ways, it felt like the similar movie that I had just watched the day before. I liked that it moved really quickly. It had a lot of the same scenes from the other version of the movie, but it also has its fair share of new things and plot points, so it doesn't just feel like you're watching the same exact thing, which is nice. I do feel like it's a tighter product, but it still feels messy, and just they clearly struggled to cut this thing together. Obviously, there are scenes that were actually stripped straight from screen tests. There are very noticeable moments where you're like, okay, this is a standout moment. This doesn't really belong. Actors have different hairstyles going back and forth. Actors just disappear from the frame. I love the idea of a director finally getting to get the closest thing to his initial vision finally realized. And he was given the resources to make the movie that he initially wanted to make. Maybe I'm crazy, but I still find the other movie's ending to be more emotionally effective and overall just as a product, because I'm like really struggling to get invested because it's all so messy and cut together poorly. Not necessarily due to their fault, just the circumstances. I am more interested in revisiting the original cut. In 4th place, I do have the original cut of Superman 2. My favorite part about this movie is seeing the relationship between Lois and Clark grow even more, getting more time developing the relationship, fleshing it out, getting more moments for the chemistry to really spark. There's definitely some unintentionally funny stuff. Some of the dialogue is rough. And this is a movie that can be cheesy, but I didn't terribly mind that all too much. The Reeve era as a whole has a lot of cheesy elements, so that's kind of just to be expected. Like I was saying, I like the ending of this cut more. Clark knows how Lois and him can't be together, even though it hurts him emotionally and it's something that he wants so badly. He still knows what's best for her, and he knows that they can't be together at the end of the day. And even though it hurts him so emotionally, and he makes her forget that he's Superman. And I think that's really sweet. But I did find that Superman losing his powers severely slowed down the movie's momentum. And then on top of that, I wasn't crazy about the Zod trio and Lex. They just weren't compelling enough villains for me. And the performances are fine. There's nothing about that. Just writing-wise, it was lackluster. You know what also surprised me is that the visual effects aren't terrible. Maybe I'm crazy. Like, some shots do look dated, but others didn't look that bad. And the movie has an entertaining third act. So overall, the romance was my favorite part about it. I think it's a decent enough movie. Not really one that I'm crazy about, though. And the hot takes don't stop there. Coming in 3rd place, I have the original Superman the movie from 1978. Up until binging all of the Superman movies for this video, I had never seen the full-fledged movie. I had seen the first part of it, and then I think I turned it off because I thought it was too slow. This was over 10 years ago. And that's probably the number one thing that people say about this original Superman movie, is that unless you grew up with it, people going to it for the first time in 2025, they think it's too slow. But you know, though, I really respect it going for setting the groundwork and giving us the go-to Superman origin story. It has some of the most important and influential moments in the character's history. And I have to commend it for taking its time and doing that, because you don't see too many comic book movies spending a good chunk of their runtime just having character-driven moments and seeing all the little pieces that make Superman who he is. Speaking of Superman, Reeve is so charismatic, even from the first few moments of you seeing him on screen. You already love him. He's a gentleman, and he's polite. He has such a good heart at his core, and you can tell that just how he was raised. This is someone that people strive to be in everyday life, and I think that that's the most important thing that you can get right in a Superman movie. I'd be remiss if I didn't even talk about the fantastic score from John Williams, one of the most iconic pieces of music, the Superman theme. It still was used in James Gunn iteration, although tweaked a little bit. Like, it's gonna go down as one of the greatest pieces of music. It has gone down as one of the greatest pieces of music. It's genuinely spectacular. The chemistry between Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve is great, really setting the groundwork for this is what a Superman and Lois relationship should look like. This is how much great chemistry they have and the tension there. Gene Hackman playing Lex Luthor, he is not my favorite iteration of the character. That's not to say that he's a poorly done iteration of the character. He plays that cocky Lex Luthor character really well, but he's just not the most interesting iteration of the character. Let's talk about the things that hold it back. One, I hate how washed out the movie looks visually. Small nitpick, I know, but it's something that is standout worthy to me. You know, you can acknowledge that it's dated in its visual effects and editing. Does that add to the overall charm? I think so, but it's still something to acknowledge. Some moments can be really overly melodramatic, and the acting especially. Lex's quote-unquote minions, or whatever you want to call them, they add some silly moments, which looking back on it, kind of, honestly, it was something I didn't really like. And the ending, which has been talked about for decades, how he goes back in time to save Lois is a bit too much for me, and I think the ending could have hit harder and been more powerful had they have not done that. I understand that Lois is such an integral character to the Superman lore, and I know why they had to keep her around, but I think there could have been something really special, and then setting that up for future Superman movies, I don't know. I think it could have been cool, but alas, this is what we have. Plain and simple, I just don't find this to be the most captivating of movies, not one that I care to overly revisit over time. I think when I think of Superman movies, this is not one that I'm going to go, this is the one I want to watch right now. So it's not a classic that I love, but I respect the hell out of it, and especially what it did for the medium as a whole, setting the groundwork for this is what comic book movies can be. This is how comic book movies can be taken seriously, too. And what it did for film as a whole, like, it cannot be overstated just how important this movie is. My runner-up is going to be Man of Steel, a lot of people's favorites, just like the original 1978 movie. It's a real toss-up. One of the more divisive movies on the internet is Man of Steel. Zack Snyder and his iteration, it was different. It was much different than anything we had seen before in a Superman movie. In terms of how dark it was, it's not a movie with a lot of levity. It feels heavy, and there's a lot of weight in this movie. I can see why people complain about how dark it is. There's such little hope at times. But you know what, though? It's a fresh take on the source material, and I dig that. This is me personally. I can still understand why people don't, though. The opening of this movie is epic. Krypton feels more grandiose than ever before. Zack Snyder really had a wide vision in the scope and scale of it all. It's a tragic, epic opening, like I said. The movie starts off just with a bang, and then from there, it just continuously keeps you engaged. It feels tight enough to the point where you're not overly checking the time. Michael Shannon as Zod. This is the intimidating foe and the iteration of the character that I find the most compelling. He's damn good as a character. He's one of our finest actors. Obviously, there's that too. And Henry Cavill, even though there's not that much of him as Clark the Reporter, which actually, similarly, in the newest Superman movie, there's not that much of it. Henry is superb in the role, embodying strength, honor, and love. Amy Adams as Lois Lane. That never really did anything for me. The score is excellent. Zack Snyder in his Superman movies and the DC overall, like, they have some iconic pieces of music. I love the Wonder Woman piece of music. You have this score. The flying sequences feel so large in scale, and I love that. And the visual effects are really good. They still hold up over 10 years later. The action is entertaining, and it's awesome to finally see the relationship between Pa Kent and Clark Kent explored and really given time to. Pa Kent's death, I really love what they did with it, and it's been heavily debated over the years. Some people think it's just absolutely stupid that Superman didn't go out there and save his father and reveal to the world who he was. But then you have the other group of people that think it's really powerful, like me. To Pa Kent, he realizes just how important it is for Superman to keep his identity a secret, and he's willing to give up his life and convince his son not to save him just in favor of keeping his identity a secret. To me, that's powerful stuff. It also doesn't follow all of the beats of the Superman origin that we've seen before. It flashes back and forth. I think it's a great Superman movie, but not the one that when I think of Superman, this is the one I want to watch today it's not that one. In first place, you could argue recency bias, but I don't really put the newest release in first place often. Not to say that this is some 5 out of 5 A+ movie, but it's still one that I've now seen twice. On a rewatch, this movie is just as good as it was on the first viewing. I thought really what stood out was how well it is paced. It really flies by. Sometimes when rewatching a movie, I definitely know that you can feel like, wow, this movie is much slower than I remember, and especially when you came out loving it and then you're like, wait, this feels rough. I did not feel that at all. I was actually waiting for that to happen. It never happened. And seeing it with a packed audience once again was awesome. They were eating up the comedy. I will say on second viewing, maybe take a handful of jokes out here and there. But it's really a small nitpick. It's something I can overlook. I love how refreshing of a political story it is. It really is James Gunn pouring a lot of his viewing of the world right now into this movie. I think that's very important as an artist, to pour how you feel about the world around you into your art. It's an ambitious movie. It goes all out. The story has a lot of moving pieces. There are a lot of characters, and I understand the complaint there for a lot of people. To me personally, I think that I just love all the characters, and I think that Superman gets the time that he needs, because this is, at the end of the day, of course, a Superman movie. David Corenswet is absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to see more of him as the character. I don't want to jump on it right now and say he's my favorite iteration of the character, but it's fucking close. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane is great. The chemistry between the two is electric. It has emotional moments that, while I do complain about there's maybe too many jokes, I still think it's a funny movie. And Crypto acts like a dog. James Gunn understands how dogs act. It feels in such a fantastical world. Having a dog that is literally an alien with just superpowered abilities. But at the end of the day, you're like, that's still a dog. That's a dog that doesn't understand when someone is in emotional distress. They're so excited to see them. And when someone's in pain, they're still going to be so excited to see them. They're going to be jumping all over them, wanting to play. It's so much energy. And there's something so human about this movie. It is filled with hope, and you really feel like Lex Luthor, even though he does a lot, and there are times where you think Superman could lose at the end of the day, Lex Luthor, Nicholas Hoult, oh my god, he is so intimidating. He's so evil. He's purely evil. And going up against that with Superman, who's just purely good, it's really just go head to head. It's great. The little monologue that Superman delivers at the end about what it means to be human and why he is human at the end of the day, that is, I literally was sitting in the theater on my second viewing and I just had chills from head to toe. In terms of the cameos, I thought that it was a really quick little funny bit to have Peacemaker in there. That was nice. And also seeing Supergirl at the end of the movie, that was cool. I'm very excited to see what's in store for her movie coming next year, and I can't wait for more DCU projects. If this is anything like how they're going to be going forward, I am all in. And that is why James Gunn's Superman came in at first place. It's just a movie that I think any day of the week I could go on and be like, this is a Superman movie I want to watch. This is the most entertaining one of the bunch. That's what it came down to me, but I understand why it might not be for everyone. At the end of the day, it's my number one pick. But I want to thank you so much for watching this ranking of the entire Superman franchise. Be sure to let me know your ranking of the movies. Include Dawn of Justice if you want. And I would love to hear your thoughts on the newest Superman movie. If it lived up to the hype, let me know down below. Again, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. And as always, look forward to more content coming soon. My name is Ben. People call me Meter. And I'll see you guys in the next one.